There's a strange feeling surrounding the New York Yankees right now. And it's not just about what's happening on the field. It's a mix of anticipation, uncertainty, and a bit of confusion that seems to be spreading not only among the fan base, but across the broader baseball world. You can feel it in every discussion, every debate, every reaction to the latest updates. And honestly, it all makes sense when you start breaking down everything that's been unfolding over the past few weeks. Let's start with a piece of news that immediately grabs attention and brings a sense of excitement back into the conversation. Gerrit Cole is finally set to take the mound again, even if it's just for a brief appearance. He's expected to throw a single inning in a spring training matchup against the Boston Red Sox, and that alone is enough to get fans energized. It has been a long wait since the last time he pitched, going all the way back to the final stretch of the 2024 season. Seeing him back out there, even in a limited role, is a reminder of just how important he is to this team's identity. At the same time, there's a reality that can't be ignored. Cole himself has indicated that his full return might not come until around June, which means the Yankees will need to navigate the early part of the season without their ace at full strength. There's always a chance that timeline could shift slightly. Maybe things progress faster than expected, but counting on anything earlier would be risky. For now, the focus has to be on managing without him and finding ways to stay competitive until he's ready to take on a full workload again. That situation naturally puts pressure on the rest of the rotation, and this is where things start to get a bit more complicated. Carlos Rodon is working his way back and is targeting a return sometime in April, which could be a huge boost if it happens on schedule. Having him back sooner rather than later would stabilize things, especially considering the current uncertainty surrounding some of the other arms competing for spots. Names like Luis Gil and Ryan Weathers have been part of the conversation, and there's definitely potential there. You can see flashes of talent, moments where everything clicks, but consistency has been an issue throughout spring training. That's the part that raises concern. It's not about a lack of ability, it's about whether they can be reliable enough when the games start to matter. Because if those performances don't improve, the confidence in the rotation as a whole starts to take a hit. Looking at the projected group, it's a mix of established presence and unproven options. Max Fried is expected to play a leading role, while younger pitchers are being asked to step into meaningful innings early on. That kind of structure can work, but it also carries risk. When you're relying on developing talent to fill key roles, there's always an element of unpredictability. And in a division as competitive as this one, any inconsistency can quickly become a problem. Once Rodon returns, the dynamic shifts again. Someone will inevitably lose their spot, either moving to the bullpen or being pushed further down the depth chart. Then, when Cole eventually makes his full comeback, another adjustment will follow. It's a constant reshuffling, and while depth is usually a strength, it can also create difficult decisions when too many players are fighting for limited opportunities. But pitching isn't the only area generating debate. There's also been a lot of discussion about how the team is handling defensive alignments, particularly involving Ryan McMahon. The idea of using him at shortstop has raised more than a few eyebrows. It's not that he lacks the ability to adapt, but when you already have one of the best defensive third basemen in the game, moving him away from that position feels unnecessary. Third base is where he thrives. That's where his instincts, reactions, and overall defensive value stand out the most. Shifting him to shortstop might provide some flexibility, but it also means weakening a position where the team currently has a clear advantage. And then the question becomes even more complicated. If he's playing shortstop, who takes over at third base? The alternatives don't offer the same level of confidence, and that's where the decision starts to lose its logic. There are other players on the roster who could potentially handle shortstop duties without disrupting the defensive balance as much. That's what makes this situation so puzzling. Instead of maximizing strengths, it feels like the team is experimenting in ways that could create unnecessary gaps. And for a team with championship aspirations, those details matter more than ever. While all of this is happening, there are still some intriguing developments that bring a different kind of excitement. One name that started to generate buzz is Evanny Cruz. He's been turning heads with his velocity, consistently reaching triple digits with his fastball and pairing it with a sharp cutter that keeps hitters off balance. In limited actions so far, he's already shown the ability to miss bats and handle high-level competition. That kind of arm talent is always valuable, especially in today's game where power pitching can change the momentum of a game in an instant. If he continues on this path, there's a real possibility he becomes a key piece in the bullpen. And when you start imagining a relief group filled with pitchers who can bring that level of intensity, it adds another layer of intrigue to the team's overall structure. At the same time, the organization's depth in pitching continues to stand out. There's a steady flow of young arms developing at different levels, each one bringing something unique to the table. It's the kind of depth that allows a team to remain flexible, to adapt when injuries happen, and to build for both the present and the future without completely sacrificing one for the other. Even so, not every decision is straightforward. There are ongoing discussions about how certain prospects should be utilized, whether they should remain in starting roles or transition into the bullpen to address immediate needs. That balance between short-term impact and long-term development is never easy to manage, and it's something the Yankees will have to navigate carefully as the season approaches. And as all of these moving pieces continue to take shape, there's another storyline that keeps resurfacing, one that seems to divide opinions every single time it comes up. It revolves around Aaron Judge and the way his performances, especially in high-pressure moments, are constantly being dissected. It's almost impossible to ignore how quickly the narrative shifts depending on the situation. One stretch of games can completely redefine the conversation, and suddenly everything he's accomplished gets put under a microscope again. What makes it even more surprising is how extreme some of these takes have become. There's this recurring argument that he somehow disappears in the postseason, that he can't deliver when it matters most. But when you actually take a step back and look at what happened recently, that claim doesn't really hold up the way people try to present it. In the last postseason run, he was one of the few players who consistently produced at the plate, carrying a significant portion of the offensive responsibility while others struggled to find their rhythm. That's the part that gets overlooked far too often. Baseball is a team sport, and no single player, no matter how talented, can carry an entire lineup on his own through every series. Yet the expectations placed on Judge sometimes feel unrealistic, as if anything short of dominance in every single at-bat is considered a failure. It creates this cycle where even strong performances get diminished because they don't meet an almost impossible standard. At the same time, it's understandable why the spotlight is so intense. When you're the face of a franchise like the Yankees, everything you do is magnified. Every swing, every strikeout, every big hit becomes part of a larger narrative that comes with the territory, and Judge has embraced that role in many ways. But the criticism often ignores the broader context, focusing only on isolated moments instead of the full picture. There's also a certain energy that comes from outside the team, from conversations across the baseball community that fuel these debates even further. Fans from different teams, analysts, commentators, everyone seems to have an opinion, and not all of them are grounded in what's actually happening on the field. Sometimes it feels more like noise than analysis, like people are more interested in creating a reaction than in understanding the game itself. Meanwhile, inside the clubhouse, the focus is much different. The priority is finding consistency, building chemistry, and getting the most out of the roster as it currently stands. That means trusting players to perform, even when the external pressure starts to build. It also means making adjustments when necessary, whether that involves changing roles, tweaking mechanics, or simply giving someone the time they need to settle into their rhythm. And this brings everything back to that initial feeling of uncertainty, not in a negative way, but in the sense that there are so many variables still in play. The rotation is waiting to be fully assembled. Key players are working their way back, and younger talents are trying to establish themselves at the highest level. It's a transitional moment where potential and doubt exist side by side. You can see flashes of what this team could become once everything clicks. A rotation anchored by experienced arms, supported by emerging talent. A bullpen filled with power pitchers capable of shutting down any lineup. A lineup that, when healthy and in sync, can put pressure on opposing teams in multiple ways. All of those elements are there, but they haven't fully come together yet. That's what makes this stretch so important. Every game, every inning, every decision contributes to shaping the identity of the team moving forward. It's not just about results, it's about how those results are achieved. Are the young pitchers learning and improving? Are the defensive adjustments making the team stronger or creating new issues? Is the offense finding ways to stay productive even when facing adversity? At the same time, patience becomes a key factor. It's easy to react to every small setback, to question every choice, especially in a market that demands immediate success. But building something sustainable often requires time, and not every answer will come right away. There will be ups and downs, moments of frustration mixed with moments of excitement, and that's all part of the process. As the season gets closer, the anticipation continues to build. There's a sense that this group has the tools to compete at a high level, but also an understanding that execution will ultimately determine how far they can go. The early months without key players will test their depth, their resilience, and their ability to adapt under pressure. And while the conversations around lineups, rotations, and individual performances will keep evolving, one thing remains clear. This team is still defining itself. The pieces are there, the talent is undeniable, but the final form is still taking shape, and how everything comes together from this point forward will decide the story that gets told when it matters most. And within all of that, there's also the mental side of the game that can't be ignored. When a team is dealing with injuries, role changes, and constant scrutiny, confidence becomes just as important as talent. Players need to trust their preparation, trust the system, and most importantly, trust each other. Because when things don't go as planned early on, it's very easy for doubt to creep in, and that's when small issues can quickly turn to bigger problems on the field. Another factor that could end up making a huge difference is how quickly those younger players adjust once the regular season intensity kicks in. Spring performances can give you an idea, but they don't always tell the full story. The real test comes when the pressure rises, when every at-bat and every pitch carries weight. That's when you find out who can handle the moment and who still needs time to develop. And for the Yankees, those answers are going to come sooner rather than later. At the same time, the margin for error in a division like this is incredibly small. You can't afford to fall behind early and expect to coast your way back without consequences. Every series matters. Every stretch of games can shift the standings, and that's why finding stability as soon as possible is going to be critical. Because while the long-term outlook might be strong, the short-term execution is what will determine whether this team is playing from a position of strength or constantly trying to catch up as the season unfolds. But before we continue, please remember to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support allows us to keep bringing you the latest news about the New York Yankees. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments. Whispers have begun to echo through the Bronx, growing louder with each passing hour, hinting at a move that could reshape the balance of power in baseball. Sources close to the situation suggest that Rafael Devers, long considered the cornerstone of the Giants, is on the verge of a stunning switch to the Yankees. While nothing has been officially confirmed, the mere possibility has already ignited a wave of excitement among fans and insiders alike. The idea of Devers stepping into the batter's box in pinstripes feels almost surreal. Known for his explosive bat and ability to change the course of a game in a single swing, he represents exactly the kind of presence the Yankees have been rumored to seek. Club officials have remained tight-lipped, offering no confirmation, but their silence has only fueled speculation that negotiations may be further along than anyone expected. Around the Bronx, anticipation is building. Supporters are daring to imagine a lineup bolstered by one of the league's most feared hitters, a player entering his prime with a reputation for delivering in high-pressure moments. The buzz is not just about talent, but about symbolism, a statement that the franchise is ready to make a bold push toward dominance once again. Skeptics, however, urge caution. Deals of this magnitude are rarely straightforward, and obstacles can emerge at any moment. Financial considerations, player preferences, and internal strategy all play a role behind the scenes. Still, the persistence of these rumors suggests there may be more than mere fantasy at play. For now, the city watches and waits, caught between disbelief and hope. If the whispers prove true, the Bronx may soon welcome a new star, and with him, the promise of a thrilling new chapter. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the New York Yankees, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.